Everyone has secrets they don't want anyone else to find out. For Aoi, his secret is a terrifying stalker. Miyako, a girl who is both unhinged and dangerous, not to mention a beautiful killer. Due to Miyako's constant stalking, Aoi was forced to move to another town on the advice of the police chief. In his new home, Aoi quickly gained a reputation for being cold, distant, and quiet. One day, while overhearing his classmates talk about a woman with a bandaged arm, Aoi became terrified that Miyako had once again followed him. In a flashback, Miyako is shown continuing her slaughter of what appear to be non-human creatures, all just to get closer to him. Lost in thought, Aoi jumped out of his seat in a panic when his only friend, Waya, tapped him on the shoulder, startling him. Later, while hanging out in front of a convenience store, Waya shared that the recent rumors might be about Miyako, the infamous stalker from Elway. Reports about her had only surfaced recently. And there was no doubt about it. Miyako had followed Aoi all the way here, but Waya reassured Aoi that she would take care of it. However, just a few minutes after they left, Miyako appeared right where they had just been sitting. Waya led Aoi to an abandoned school building, saying it was a safe place to hide from Miyako. But Aoi soon realized he wasn't being led here, but rather lured here. In the gloomy space, Waya began to take off her jacket. At that moment, a horrifying truth was revealed. Waya was also one of Aoi's stalkers. She moved closer to him, telling him not to run away and revealing an even more terrifying truth. Waya wasn't just a stalker, she was a monster girl, specifically a giant centipede girl. While Aoi might be into monster girls like anyone else, it was not like this. He stood frozen, trying to tell himself it was all just a nightmare. He was about to be devoured, but Miyako appeared just in time and stabbed Waya straight in the face. Waya recoiled in pain, but Miyako wasn't done yet. Waya had scarred her precious Aoi, and Miyako had no intention of letting her die easily. She wanted Waya's death to be excruciating. Panicked, Aoi backed away from Miyako, who was overjoyed to be with him again. Miyako explained that these stalkers had been watching him since he was a child. You can call them yokai or ghosts, but to her, it didn't matter. If anyone dared to lay their thieving eyes on Aoi, she would kill them without hesitation. Then Miyako asked Aoi who he wanted to survive this encounter, Waya or her. Aoi was terrified, not daring to choose a side, but he knew that if he rejected Miyako right now, he would die. Finally, he reluctantly begged Miyako for help. She immediately rewarded him with a kiss, and their saliva formed a strange connecting bridge. When they pulled apart, Miyako reassured Aoi that she was here to help him. Waya screamed in rage and charged at Miyako, but Miyako transformed into a giant, fearsome wolf. And I don't know about you, but my money is definitely on the wolf. A moment later, Miyako comforted Aoi, whispering that it was all over. Behind them, Waya's slaughtered body hung from the wall, bloody and gruesome. Aoi wondered if his decision to trust Miyako, the one who was so clearly, obsessively in love with him, was a mistake. But right now, he had no other choice. As Miyako embraced Aoi, she asked if he had seen everything. Aoi's eyes widened as he realized that outside the window, a crowd of yokai, stalkers, and other grotesque creatures were watching him. Aoi tried to tell himself it was all just a nightmare, but Miyako's blood-soaked arms reminded him that this nightmare was all too real. Aoi woke up from another nightmare. One where Miyako was pinning him down. But when he came to, he realized Miyako was actually in his house. Aoi slowly backed away, wondering how Miyako could have possibly broken in. But Miyako warned him just as a yokai nearly grabbed him. She stepped forward, casually snapping its fingers, then reassured him that she was there to protect him. Afterward, Miyako prepared breakfast for Aoi. Even so, he remained wary and suspicious of her. Aoi demanded that Miyako tell him who she was and why those yokai were hunting him. Miyako began to explain from the beginning. Yokai, as humans know them, are just spirits or urban legends. But to the yokai themselves, they know they are merely remnants of what they once were. She also mentioned that Aoi must know something about them. However, this reminder made Aoi confused and uncomfortable. He stood up and left the table. Miyako approached from behind, asking if he was hiding something. The question triggered a traumatic memory in Aoi, an image of himself lying on the floor, covered in blood. In a sudden, frantic impulse, Aoi shoved Miyako to the ground and threatened to stab her with the chopstick in his hand. Surprisingly, Miyako accepted the idea of dying at Aoi's hands. If killing her would bring him some kind of comfort, then she was ready. She even joked that she would do anything for him, from filing his taxes and taking out the trash to dying. Aoi finally broke down before Miyako's strange allure. He collapsed against her and Miyako gently stroked his head, whispering that she would always be by his side. Perhaps Aoi began to think he could actually fix her. Later, Aoi went to school. Although he had allowed Miyako to be near him for now, he told her not to get the wrong idea. To him, she would always be just a stalker. Miyako didn't care. She vowed to rush to his side the moment he was in danger. As Aoi left, Miyako's legs and knees trembled. She could barely restrain the powerful instinct to devour Aoi. But just then, she caught the scent of another yokai hiding in Aoi's school. Miyako dashed to the school gate, clawing at the iron bars, frantically searching for the other yokai. Meanwhile, Ueda's sudden disappearance was dismissed by everyone as her having transferred schools. Rumors began to circulate about her connection to Aoi, making the atmosphere even more mysterious. However, none of the other students dared to speak directly to Aoi. They found him scary and he made them feel indescribably uncomfortable. Aoi, frustrated, wondered what Miyako would do if she heard what they were saying right now. In his mind, he pictured his classmates being brutally slaughtered by Miyako, all while she gently asked him to praise her. And, maybe they really were a perfect match. Aoi was snapped out of his daydream when he overheard his classmates talking about someone in the schoolyard. He glanced out the window and his face immediately paled with worry. Aoi rushed outside, where a group of students had surrounded Miyako. When they saw Aoi arrive, everything seemed to click into place. They immediately guessed that she was the stalker Wada had mentioned. They started discussing whether Wada had transferred because of Miyako's and Aoi's involvement. Aoi immediately thought of a way to blame everything on Miyako, hoping it would justify his own inaction and earn him some sympathy from everyone. But before Aoi could do anything, Miyako calmly admitted that she was the one who had taken care of Wada. The students started throwing plastic bottles, rocks, and empty cans at Miyako, unleashing their anger and contempt for what she had done. However, Miyako was completely unfazed. She calmly declared that she didn't regret a single thing, and that everything she did was out of love. This horrified the students even more, and they began to throw larger rocks at her. Suddenly, Aoi lunged forward to shield Miyako, and a rock struck him in the face, drawing blood. Seeing the one she loved get hurt, Miyako grabbed Aoi and immediately teleported them both away. Aoi's wound had stopped bleeding, but he still asked Miyako why she was standing so close to the school gate. Miyako explained that she was looking for a monster hiding among the students, but not to worry, she had already memorized its face. Aoi sighed, realizing that he could no longer go to school. To Miyako, this was great news because now they could spend more time together. Miyako leaned affectionately against Aoi and told him that what he did earlier was really cool. It was a compliment Aoi had never heard before, not even from his own mother. Miyako's instincts flared up, and she could barely stop herself from petrifying him. Unbeknownst to either of them, someone was watching from a distance. Miyako knocked on Aoi's balcony door during one of her visits, worried that he hadn't been outside in a while. Aoi explained that he had dropped out of school completely without telling his mother. He was expecting a visit from his homeroom teacher, so he asked Miyako to hide. He could explain his own absence, but he couldn't explain a strange woman in his room. Aoi told Miyako it would just be a short meeting, and if the teacher turned out to be a monster, she could come in and save him. Miyako agreed to that condition and obediently stepped outside, but she pressed herself against the glass, whispering that sooner or later he wouldn't have to open the door for her anymore. Miyako then snuck the door open and lunged at Aoi. But Aoi's teacher suddenly appeared, reassuring him that she had come to help. After clearing up the misunderstanding, the teacher introduced herself as Ushimi, looking more like a runway model than a teacher. Truth be told, Ushimi believed that Miyako was Aoi's relative. So she began the counseling session with Miyako present. Aoi glanced at Miyako, noticing her calm expression, which suggested Ushimi wasn't a threat. Ushimi took out a small gift, a box of homemade cookies, and seemed very proud of them. She said she'd be happy if Aoi would try one. Seeing Ushimi's radiant face, Aoi decided to trust her. However, just as he reached for a cookie, Miyako's face twisted with jealousy, causing Aoi to freeze, realizing he could lose his life if he ate that cookie. Ushimi asked when Aoi planned to return to school, explaining that she had spoken to the entire class, explaining his special circumstances. If Aoi could just clear up the misunderstanding and say Miyako was only a relative, everyone would surely welcome him back. However, that wasn't what Aoi wanted to hear. He revealed their true nature, people who would spread rumors and attack others at a moment's notice. Aoi didn't believe for a second that they would suddenly become kind just because Ushimi had scolded them. Real-life bullies don't change that easily, he thought. Ushimi looked offended and asked why Aoi didn't trust her. Suddenly, her voice changed and she started to climb onto the table. If this manga wasn't about yokai stalkers, I would have thought this scene was about to get really hot. Ushimi's voice echoed in Aoi's head, as she started calling him a good boy. "That's right, you're a very good boy," she repeated. Somehow, Aoi felt compelled to do as she said. He silently pleaded for Miyako's help, and her timely appearance broke the spell that was enveloping Aoi. Ushimi clasped her hands together and made an excuse to leave for the day. Aoi retreated to his room, wondering if he could really trust Miyako. Later, Miyako discovered the dead body of a student yokai at Aoi's school. However, Miyako turned back and confronted Ushimi, who previously didn't have the scent of a yokai. She asked bluntly, "Who are you?" Admittedly, Ushimi was truly captivating with her impressive height and alluring appearance. Miyako began to interrogate Ushimi, and she revealed that there were many yokai hiding in the school. Miyako, who had believed there were only 2 yokai, instantly realized Ushimi was testing her. Even so, yokai usually can't be detected by the naked eye. The yokai Ushimi could sense were only those who chose not to hide themselves or couldn't control their presence. Miyako replied bluntly, "Too long, didn't read. I'm going to kill you." As usual, Ushimi scoffed at Miyako's way of thinking. She asserted that Miyako was not worthy of Aoi. The only one suitable for him was her, someone who could teach him everything, both mentally and physically. Ushimi writhed with excitement, unable to wait to carry out her various educational lessons with Aoi. "Yes, teacher, please teach me more." Aoi suddenly stepped forward and declared that nothing she said mattered. To him, Miyako's love was enough. Ushimi threw her glasses aside and began a terrifying transformation. Throughout the ages, her words and presence had been revered. Her eyes widened, delivering a prophecy of Miyako's death. Ushimi revealed her true form. Ushi-ana, a horrific monster with a cow's head and an ant-like body. Still, Miyako didn't care. She lunged at Ushimi, attacking ferociously. However, Ushimi contorted her body, wrapping herself around Miyako, and reminded her that her death was preordained. Ushimi pierced through Miyako's stomach, causing her to slowly bleed out. As Miyako weakened, Ushimi took the time to deliver her grand villainous speech, revealing she had tricked the student yokai into cooperating with her, and had deliberately isolated Aoi to make him more vulnerable. Of course, Ushimi was the one who killed that student yokai, but this is the world of yokai, where the strong prey on the weak. Even so, Miyako steadfastly refused to give up. She asserted that nothing was more important to her than love. She couldn't stop loving. Love was so warm. Miyako felt this addictive sensation, and she unleashed an even more horrifying monster form, more grotesque and violent than anything Ushimi had ever witnessed. Just a few moments later, Ushimi lay slumped in a pool of her own blood, leaning against a pillar, lamenting that she couldn't fight against such a beast. She chuckled softly, saying she was eager to meet Miyako again in the next life, but also blamed Miyako for the tragedy that was to come, or rather for what Miyako used to be. As Miyako raised her hand to deliver the final blow, Aoi jolted awake from a nightmare. In his dream, he recalled a memory of a woman he had once met. Even though she had said goodbye, she also reassured him that she would always find him, no matter how many years passed. Aoi woke up to find a badly injured Miyako lying beside him. He dazedly asked if she had been in a fight. Geez, if Aoi knew that his personal psycho had just gotten into a fight with a hot but equally psychotic teacher over him, he'd have a hard time believing it. Aoi went down to the kitchen for lunch, but his mom had only left him some money. Aoi thought about asking Miyako to go to the convenience store for him, but realizing her appearance would attract unwanted attention, he reluctantly went out himself. He avoided the main road, slipping through the small alleyways. Along the way, Aoi ran into a few classmates, and immediately regretted his decision to leave the house. But just as he turned a tight corner, a yokai amalgamation suddenly lunged at him. Aoi started screaming for help, panicking in despair. Just then, a woman appeared, gently placed a hat on his head and said, "This won't take long." After a few brutal seconds, the woman turned back and picked Aoi up. He was stunned and relieved to realize it was Yaisa, the woman from his dreams and memories, perhaps a hachishaku. Yaisa carried Aoi for a while, but suddenly burst into tears. She slowly put him down, sharing that the years she spent searching for him were like hell. She really missed him so much. However, elsewhere in the city, Miyako's eyes snapped open. Sensing a disturbance in the air, Yaisa asked Aoi if he liked anyone. Although he denied it, she asked the same question about herself, but her answer was vague, only emphasizing that he would understand soon enough. Yaisa said that the few hours they spent together might be fleeting, but it was a memory she would never forget. All this time, she had only feared one thing, that he would forget her, so she decided not to hold back anymore. Yaisa began to attack Aoi, wrapping her limbs around him, dragging him to a place where no one could see for a fateful reunion. Nearby, Miyako smelled the scent of yokai blood. She recognized this scent. It was the same one she detected outside the school after the incident with Ueda. Fear and rage mingled within Miyako. She was determined not to lose Aoi to anyone. Yaisa took Aoi to an abandoned building, reminiscing about the places they used to play together. Yaisa said she was having so much fun. So much that she killed another yokai that had been tailing them. She remarked that after Miyako was exposed as an Okuryokami, all these yokai had come out of the woodwork. Yaisa mocked them as useless, foolish, and unworthy. Aoi asked Yaisa if she had always been a yokai, and when she asked if he was disappointed, Aoi said the complete opposite. He said that he now understood why he always felt so safe with her. Yaisa smiled, saying that saved her the trouble of explaining further to him. However, she quickly moved on to the main event. She gently took Aoi's hands and redirected them, reminding him of appropriate boundaries. She expressed her intense love for him, saying that it wouldn't fade easily, like a disease that never goes away, a sickness that would last even after she had devoured him. Gradually, Yaisa began to transform, becoming more monstrous than ever, while gently asking Aoi if he knew the legend of the god who left to chase after the boy he loved. Yaisa now stood fully revealed in her monstrous form. She asserted that Aoi would never be able to run from her. Yaisa revealed that she knew everything about Aoi, how he once killed the classroom's pet fish, how he put salt in his parents' food, or even his fantasies about her body. "You're such a hater of everything," she said, "but I still love you." It was unconditional love. Yaisa began to remove her outer layer of clothing, insisting that they both needed to make up for lost time. Suddenly, the window shattered, revealing Miyako's furious face. She had come to rescue Aoi, or as Titan would say, under new management. Yaisa merely acted displeased by Miyako's arrival, while Aoi knew the truth. He understood that in her current state, Miyako stood no chance against Yaisa. Even though they were both his stalkers, Aoi didn't want either of them to die. Miyako threw a yokai's corpse at Yaisa to shut her up, and reassured Aoi that there was nothing to worry about. Miyako made Aoi promise that when they got home, she wanted a proper reward. Hearing this, Yaisa became extremely irritated. There was only one thought in her mind right now: to rip Miyako's filthy mouth right off her filthy face. Because of the promise of a reward from Aoi, Miyako decided to go all out. For the first time, Aoi spoke up. He tried to stop them, saying he didn't want either of them to die. He hoped they could reach a peaceful resolution. But it was obvious that both of them were just killing machines. Both Miyako and Yaisa apologized to Aoi, but this was a dispute that couldn't be settled with words. If it was for the one they loved, both of these yokai were willing to fight even to the death. Aoi watched in horror as the two of them fought over him, baring their fangs and claws. He didn't understand why they were fighting for him, and began to wonder if it was all his fault. Suddenly he asked himself, who am I really?